Welcome to CBS Sports HQ, presented by GMC. We are professional grade. That's Jacqueline D'Agostino. I'm Tommy Train with you on this Monday. Week 1 of the NFL almost over, JD. Kind of a weird week, both on and off the field.
Absolutely.
And we've got one more game to go, though, tonight out in the Bay Area.
Yeah, and it's you know, saving the best for last energy, right? We have Aaron Rodgers making his long-awaited return to the field. We do have a Monday Night Football preview coming up a little bit later in the show with Mike Renner and Kyle Long. Aaron Rodgers, of course, coming off of that Achilles injury.
4 plays.
I know, 4 plays. So football fans are hoping for a little bit more this go-around. But we've already seen our fair share of injuries after just week 1. Getting a look at some notable injuries from week 1, and it just gets from bad to worse for Carolina Panthers fans. Shout out to Zach Aldridge, our colleague. Derrick Brown dealing with a knee injury that seems to be pretty serious. Puka Nacua also dealing with a knee injury, the same one that was kind of nagging him during training camp. David Njoku, that's another big one. And then Jake Ferguson, tight end for the Cowboys, also dealing with a knee injury. We saw that in that matchup against the Browns. And let's welcome in our NFL insider, Jonathan Jones, to talk about this, some injury news and some other news around the league. And as mentioned, JJ, Panthers fans really going through it. Their offense didn't look good, and then we look on defense. Derrick Brown dealing with a pretty serious knee injury. What more can you tell us about that, JJ?
Yeah, it's a meniscus, Jacqueline, which you never really know until you get in there into surgery and you say, all right, well, we're going to have to do the full repair versus the trim, which is where this appears to be headed right now for the Carolina Panthers, barring some unforeseen great news. So it would be a full meniscus repair for Derrick Brown. Obviously, that injury suffered at some point against the New Orleans Saints in that terrible loss for the Carolina Panthers. Brown, I know I tweeted arguably their best player. I don't know who would argue against it. You know, he's a Pro Bowl defensive lineman. When you look for their second best player, good luck to you. And look, it's going to take some time for this team to start to gel. We know that they didn't play together much in the preseason. At least the starters did not. They have a week 2 game against the Chargers that look like a unit that is playing for their head coach and in their head coach's image. And obviously the offense is going to have to get things figured out for Carolina. Bryce Young did not look very good. The offensive line did not look very good. And so, unfortunately for the Carolina Panthers, added, injury to the insult of yesterday's performance, a really underwhelming performance. Derrick Brown facing what could be and perhaps potentially likely is a season-ending knee injury.
Yeah, JJ, to your point, I was kind of canvassing all of the Carolina Panthers fans in the office, asking them who they could pick as anybody who was better than Derrick Brown on that roster, and everyone was kind of scratching their head and said, hey, no, he probably is our best player, just adding, like you said, insult to injury. Let's talk about more injury news. Rams wideout Puka Nacua missing the second half of Sunday night's game because of a knee injury. As mentioned, that same knee that was an issue during training camp for him, coming off an absolutely incredible rookie campaign. How concerning is this for the Rams, JJ?
Yeah, concerning because it kind of, and I was just talking with a source a little bit ago on the phone, it kind of looks like a little bit of a freak injury, which never is good. Obviously, the knee hit the ground, hit the turf pretty hard, but because it was an older injury as well, you start to wonder, gosh, is this something that, a regular football play is going to injure or re-injure? So, they got back home very, depending on how you term, early in the morning, late at night from Detroit. So it's going to take some time for the Rams to ultimately determine the severity of this injury. We see him there on the cart. There were some tweets where, Puka Nacua was carted off. I mean, yes, he was literally on the cart, right? But the guy could walk. And then he wound up coming back and played in a series. Now, I watched his gait. It didn't look all that good. He very clearly was injured, sort of more a blocker. We know him to be. And then sort of as a decoy on one pass play. And so we will see ultimately what the MRI results show. This is a Rams team that last year, Puka Nacua stepped up in Cooper Kupp's absence. And so now we may be talking about a former Super Bowl MVP, Cooper Kupp, stepping up in the guys who was going to take the baton from him in his absence, Puka Nacua. So the Rams, a veteran group whom They have Nakua, but they also have some injuries there up front along the offensive line that they suffered in week 1 in the loss to the Lions that they're going to have to get sorted through and sorted out once they can get through the MRI on Monday.
Yeah, Rams fans are just feeling like, hey, we can't have a healthy Cooper Kupp and a healthy Puka Nakua at the same time. It's like a trade-off. Let's talk about the Steelers, because I certainly didn't have them as the only AFC North team to come out of week 1 with a win. So we want to talk about grading Justin Fields in that performance, because it was serviceable, JJ, again, in that win over Kirk Cousins and the Falcons. So if Russ is healthy week 2, what direction do you think Pittsburgh is going to go when it comes to the quarterback position?
Well, first of all, in this graphic, I really need to pull up the film from 1970 and see Roger Staubach rushing for 50 yards in Philly at what I assume was Memorial Stadium. I remember that game for the Patriots against the Dolphins. I really want to see Roger rushing for 50 yards in 1970. As it relates to the 2024 Pittsburgh Steelers, Justin Fields, I don't think that he did anything in this game that would sway Mike Tomlin from going with a healthy Russell Wilson. If Russell Wilson is healthy enough, this is me talking, this is Jonathan Jones talking, if Russell Wilson is healthy enough to play in week 2, I think that Russell Wilson would start week 2. He obviously looked like he could start wearing the eye black and the full pads and going out for the coin toss as an inactive player. Quite unusual. But clearly that's Russell Wilson both sending a message to himself and I think sending a message to the rest of his team as a captain of this team. So what do I anticipate? One of the things that was interesting, Jacqueline, was Mike Tomlin asked in the post-game interview about Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. And first of all, he said, ask me on Tuesday. So we're not going to get a clear answer from the Pittsburgh Steelers until at least tomorrow. But he also said that he would rather deal with short-term misery, is what he said. I mean, yes, the Steelers only scored 18 points via 6 Chris Boswell field goals. But would you consider the Justin Fields quarterback experience of that game as misery? I thought that was just an interesting term to use. Maybe I shouldn't read too much into it, but that is what Mike Tomlin said when asked about it. So again, you have Russell Wilson. He has the calf. The Steelers have been cautious with Russ dating back to early in training camp. And so there was probably a lot more precaution for Russ here in week 1, even though it seemed very clear throughout the week that it would be Justin Fields starting in Atlanta. But I do believe, based off of what we saw yesterday against the Falcons, there's nothing that should sway Mike Tomlin from where he has been about his starting quarterback ever since really April, and that is that Russell Wilson should be the starter.
And of course, for storyline's sake and a bit of a revenge game, of course, we all want to see Russ go out and play up against the Broncos in week 2. Let's talk about Haason Reddick. His holdout continues. He's been away from his team for months. He's going to forfeit $800K by skipping out on tonight's game. JJ, what more are you hearing about his holdout situation?
$800,000 for the game check. That's what he's going to miss out on every game that he is not present. A lot of money for a guy who has a base salary of a little bit more than $14 million this year, looking, of course, for that long-term contract extension. It's weird. The situation, the best way that I can put it is it's weird. Not only is he going to miss out on $800,000 tonight, he has also been fined, an NFL mandated, almost $5 million when you consider the training camp fines as well as the fines for missing all 3 preseason games. We see right there he is in elite company with what he has been able to do across various teams over the past couple of years. There's no question that Haason Reddick would make the New York Jets defense, team, pass rush, all of those things better. But the Jets are not going to budge on someone who is not in their building. They've been very clear about that over the last couple of months. It has been consistent. Haason Reddick, show up, we'll talk contract. Don't show up, we're not talking contract. And so until Haason shows up, I don't think anything's going to change. Maybe he's banking on the Jets suffering so much against the San Francisco 49ers on Monday night and perhaps beyond that they will come groveling back to him. I don't see any NFL franchise doing that. I don't see any franchise giving that sort of power over to a player, certainly a non-quarterback in today's NFL. And as long as he continues missing out on those game checks, that's real money. We don't see, Jacqueline, a lot of holdouts in the NFL regular season anymore because this is clearly legitimate money. You miss training camp, and while $50,000 per day is a lot to not only the average American, but most Americans, it is not really a lot to any veteran NFL player who has gotten a multi-million-dollar contract extension. Haason Reddick, Trent Williams, they could stomach the training camp fines, but missing out on almost $1 million a week, that's really hard to do in the prime of your career when you are about to be primed to get a contract extension. That's really difficult to do. So the Jets aren't going to budge. They're not going to blink, in my opinion, and in talking with folks there. And so even if they do suffer and struggle tonight against the Niners, I don't see them calling up Haason and saying, hey, stay at home. Let's just talk about this. Maybe hop on a Zoom and we can figure out this whole contract thing. They're not going to change on this. So Haason Reddick continues to be in this strange situation. And until I believe he gets to form part to the team headquarters, nothing's going to change.
Yeah, when we're talking about $800,000 a week, it's, of course, serious money. JJ, we certainly appreciate it. Always good to see you on a Monday. That's how we know the NFL is back in full swing. And CBS Sports HQ, we have got you covered all season long. News, highlights, scores, analysis, everything you need. Stay locked into HQ all season long.